told you I am not going to watch Sword Art Online. Get that through your sick wires. Oh, that sounds kinda kinky. Anyway, what anime is this guy complaining on? Bleach? Corey in the house? It's Dragon Ball. Oh, come on! Are you kidding me?
Welcome everybody to Lunatic Commentaries or whatever. This is just the beginning of my endless quest to become the greatest Dragon Ball nerd on the internet.
I'm sorry, what did you say? You want to be the biggest Dragon Baller in the universe? The biggest Dragon Ball nerd in the universe? If it's the latter, don't feel bad for yourself. Not all Dragon Ball fans are nerds. All joking aside though, you think you could be a little bit more clear?
Today, I'll be taking a stab at Scorpion, another Dragon Ball guy like Geekdom and so on and so forth.
Wait, but who's Geekdom? Is he somebody you look up to? Is he your senpai? Is he the Dragon Ball God? Seriously though, this is a pointless name drop. Not everybody is going to know who Geekdom is.
This video was released back in 2015 and was his first big hit. So wait, why am I doing a video so old? Well, this video is a rant on Dragon Ball GT, the second sequel to Dragon Ball and the one that's been disowned by Dragon Ball Super. It gets a lot of hate from fans, and they have good reasons to hate it. However, this video gives, like, the worst points in why it's bad.
Wait, but this was still made in 2015. Who's to say he still stands by what he said in the past?
That out of the way, let's check it out. Number 10. Goku is a kid again. After all that Goku went through growing up, after all the training and opponents he fought, why the fuck would you turn Goku into a kid? I know that the only true reason to why they did this was because they wanted to copy the Dragon Ball series. This is the stupidest thing to do at the beginning of the series. When I saw this as a kid, I was pissed. I thought the show was gonna be better than Dragon Ball Z because it was a sequel, but it was so wrong. This was done to make Goku weak so that the next opponents he takes on aren't a bigger threat than Buu. But if you can't come up with a bigger threat than Majin Buu, then why the fuck would you make a sequel to Dragon Ball Z? I hate this. Goku became a true badass as an adult, and now we gotta see him act like a 4-year-old all over again.
Okay, first off, when Goku was turned back into a child, he retained all of his earlier memories and abilities, which makes him smarter than he was at the beginning of Dragon Ball. Second off, he's actually around the same strength as he was before. The only difference is his inability to control Super Saiyan 3. And then again, it uses so much energy when he's alive, so it's barely usable anymore.
At first, he's smarter than he was in Dragon Ball. That's really not saying much. Even though Goku is nowhere near as stupid as he was in the original Dragon Ball, he's still pretty dumb outside of fighting. As for the point against Super Saiyan 3, how did that debunk Scorpion's point? That just made it worse, honestly. You just admitted Goku couldn't control Super Saiyan 3 well, and that was a hamper on his abilities. Key example? The first fight against Baby, where Goku lost all of his strength due to Super Saiyan 3. Had he been an adult, the fight would have been intense and not taken as long as the time.
Number 9. Character changes. I couldn't believe what they did to every single character of the series. They fucked up everybody. Goku, as we saw, is now a fucking kid. Gohan looks nothing like he did in Dragon Ball Z. Goten looks nothing like he did as well. I don't see that being a problem. I mean, how many times has that happened so suddenly in the Dragon Ball franchise? Between the two Piccolo arcs, Goku barely aged 3 years and went from being smaller than a 7-year-old to being tall as an 18-year-old. Between the 7-year time skip, Gohan had his hair elevated, and literally the only change in GT is the fact that he doesn't have the small bang falling out of his hair.
Maybe he doesn't like the designs because, as he states later on, it becomes hard enough to tell Gohan from Goten. For him, it at least creates a rather airy situation.
Goten, well, it's been 5 years since ending to Z, and in the ending he had longer hair, so I can't blame you. But still, considering how characters seem to change drastically between certain arcs, it shouldn't really be a big deal. Trench coat with shorts on and boots? Not to mention a cowboy scarf? Why the fuck would he wear that? Shouldn't that be the last thing he would want to wear, since Android 17 is probably the last person he would ever want to look like?
Blah 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 pride blah blah principle blah 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 Super Saiyan.
You add a skip screen in the middle of his point? Wait, what? What is life? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more.
If you really look at the details, you'll notice that none of the characters look anything close to what they should have looked like. Bring out the animation. Okay,
okay, yeah, the models were different than they were in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But even then, you have to admit, these different models in GT actually helped GT's animation. Last House, who struggled to make animation in Z, and they were making most of the animation in Z, in fact, actually did a better job in GT there. And the reason? Well, it's because of simpler models. I know it may be different, but if it at least helps the animators get used to stuff, then I'm okay with it.
The problem isn't that the designs are complex, it's when they get the designs completely wrong that it becomes a big problem. There's another video that covered why GT sucks, and I think to find a certain bit of footage you should look at. Take a look. Look at this! Look at this! Frieza's lips are not pink! That isn't Frieza! With the exception of Cell, most of the pictures usually were animation errors. GT just butchers the designs of characters. Also, a great job with the disappearing background. Amazing editing.
That's the one using Windows Movie Maker.
Oh, shut up. I'm fabulous.
Number 7, the music. The music in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were amazing. They are so good that I even bought the soundtrack score of the series.
Oh gosh, guys, stand back. This is a real hardcore Dragon Ball fan. He bought all the CDs.
Is this supposed to be some kind of pot shot? If so, I really don't get it. If this wasn't a joke, then this was a point just for making a point. Seriously, never do that again. Got it memorized? Actually, I'm making Axel my main right now just so I can use that as my catchphrase. Screw you, Doodle, and you try again. Got it memorized is the new me.
But the music in GT, what the hell was that? It sounded like the music from movies that came out of the Sci-Fi Channel. The movies that looked like they had a budget of $19. It is so bad. I don't know why there are still fans of the GT series when the fight scenes don't have a good background song to back it up. The music in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z fit perfectly on every scene to fit the tone of the situation. I mean, they fit so well that there are some parts of the show where my ass would even cry. I shit you not. But the music in GT, I guess you could say it does fit in well with its stupid, retarded scenes and disappointment.
Now, honestly, I don't think calling everything you see retarded and stuff isn't really going to help your argument at all. Now, granted, I don't like the soundtrack that much, finding it to be generic 90s cartoon music, but it had some good songs in it with some good placements that make it very real.
Specific examples of this? Oh, you don't? Then go sit in the corner for 358 over 2 days. Oh yeah, and whether you like the music or not doesn't matter. Opinions do not debunk opinion.
Blah 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 pride blah blah principle.
Number 5, non-canon. The show is known for sucking mainly because it is a non-canon series. Akira Toriyama did not work on the GT series. He only gave Toei Animation permission to use his characters, a decision I'm sure for a fact that he regretted. Think about how bored we were when we saw the filler scenes in the Dragon Ball Z series. Remember the Garlic Jr. episodes? Those are fucking horrible and they weren't a part of Akira Toriyama's manga. So when you make an entire series, and it's all one giant filler, what do you expect is going to happen?
I don't know. Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, Cooler, Future Reborn. You know, the one Toriyama had no involvement in but fans still consider canon.
Call me a nitpicker, but what he was talking about was a whole entire saga. You're comparing arcs of a saga to movies.
Like, could you have thought that line through? Even if this video was unscripted, which I doubt it is since it is a top 10 after all, I'm pretty sure you would have realized that and just took it out completely.
When you make a series without Akira Toriyama working on it, you know you're destined for massive disappointment. Number 4, storyline ripped straight off of Dragon Ball. The funny thing about this show is that when I first saw it, I was about 10 years old. And even there, I was saying the exact same thing as I am now. Usually when I see something as a kid, I don't usually notice that something was bad. I caught the fact that Dragon Ball GT was an exact rip-off of Dragon Ball.
Okay, honestly, I don't think any major plot points were ripped from Dragon Ball. I don't even think any minor ones were taken either. They were more of homages than rip-offs.
Problem is, the first arc of GT was all about finding the 7 Dragon Balls. Again, definition of homage is special honor or respect shown publicly. Had it been a homage, this whole entire saga would have been at least 1 episode. While this isn't related to the topic at hand, a good example of homage would be in the newest Pokemon Sun and Moon episode. In this episode, you see James and Jesse using Ekans and a coffin for a fishing lure. It's a brief moment and it doesn't last more than 10 episodes. Had they done that, it would have made Naruto anime so it looked good by comparison.
But, you know, let's see how he does this one.
In Dragon Ball, Goku takes on Demon King Piccolo's children. Don't the dragons from GT look exactly like those ones?
Okay, how about now?
Lunatic, buddy, I'm gonna put it blunt. You screwed up! You missed the chance to make a few decent points in this video and you let it fly by your head like a golf ball. You know, the fact like how Demon King Piccolo's children were demons and not dragons. The fact that not all of them look like dragons, but some of them look anthropomorphic, and some of them just look pure like dragons. Saying, how about no, will not solve your problem. I mean, if that was the case, when Trump got elected, I could have just said, how about no, and all my problems would be solved.
Then Goku kills Super Android 17 by piercing through his body. Just like how Goku pierced through King Piccolo's body in Dragon Ball.
Or like how he killed Hirudegan back in movie 13 with the Dragon Fist, which he happens to be using right now.
And you missed a good point again, that being Goku didn't kill Super 17 with Dragon Fist. He killed him with Kamehameha after using Dragon Fist.
Is that just your excuse of having dragon-looking enemies just like in Dragon Ball?
I like how you pretend this is a terrible plot point. It's simple, but it's a fitting conclusion to the franchise, since hunting for the Dragon Balls was what Dragon Ball was about back in the beginning, and they combine it with the action they had in Z. And of course the final villains would be dragons. The Dragon Balls are the Dragon Balls! They spawn a dragon! Of course the villains would be dragons.
They didn't have to be dragons, though. They could have, say, revived everybody evil who they were fighting against. After all, they were the ones that caused them to use the Dragon Balls in the first place.
As ridiculous as, let's say, the Super 17 arc. So, dude, please stop trying to fish for views.
And blah 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 pride, blah blah principle, blah blah blah.
Number 2, plot lines. So we talked about the plot holes. Now let's get down to the bigger mess, the plot lines. Turning Goku into a kid was the start of a retarded storyline. Fighting opponents weaker than themselves and being afraid of them is another. Hiding from weak-ass enemies, fighting giant worms, and getting their asses kicked by 3 little fellas in red spandex who dance off and make you dance with them? What the fuck was that?
Toriyama humor, my friend. Now go watch the first arc and I'll give you a pass. Oh, and I may have missed the portion with them running away from enemies, but that was because they were trying to get their shit back unnoticed and not cause any problems to the people that stole it. Because they did get noticed eventually, they had to go through a lot of stuff just to get their first Dragon Ball.
I agree with you somewhat, but the problem is, you didn't even talk about the other thing he mentioned. That being having to deal with enemies that are weaker than themselves, thereby not adding a challenge. I mean, where's the suspense if you automatically know that Goku's going to win in the end?
I'm glad Team 4 Star made a joke about that in the Bardock special where he sees the future enemies that Goku takes on.
No, you. I'll be skipping the majority of his next segment, but there is one thing I want to add to this real quick.
The one thing that adds the cherry on top of that turd-covered sundae is that Pan is the only character who did not die.
Wow. This is the biggest problem? That she never died? What, would have died made her a better character? Then again, nobody really died in GT. Piccolo, sure, but everybody else, no.
And you just helped him out. Again, the fact that nobody died in GT is another flaw. And sometimes dying can make characters better. I mean, take Majin Vegeta's death in Dragon Ball Z, where he sacrificed himself. It emphasized that he actually did care about the Earth and was willing to sacrifice himself. Since nobody actually died, all sense of emotion was lost, and any dramatic tension was as well. Speaking of which, it goes to show how great the villains are in GT if they can't kill one single Z fighter. And while Piccolo might have died, again, he wasn't killed.
Luckily we got through this list without breaking shit out of frustration, so...
I think you just broke the record for stupidest person to ever call themselves a Dragon Ball fan. That's a hard record to break, by the way.
You know, if the amount of pointless interjections was equal to losses in Dragon Ball, then I'm guessing you would be the Yamcha of the group. Look, I'm going to end the commentary here, because all that's left really is final thought. You know, this is the first commentary I've seen by you, and if all the others are this bad, oh my. The worst thing here is that I actually agree with you. This video is bad, but your interjections were poor. My main problem is your lack of elaboration, and your lack of research in certain aspects that I mentioned earlier. My advice is to look over your scripts more, or else you're just gonna come off as some kind of lunatic. Kill me.